All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Now, there's a generation of college football fans who've grown up and they have no idea that the Colorado Buffaloes were once a player on the college football scene. Now, from 1989 to 1996, Colorado finished each season ranked, which was highlighted by them sharing the national championship with Georgia Tech at the end of the 1990 college football season. Now, first under former head coach Bill McCartney and then Rick Neuheisel, the Buffaloes were a revered football program for the majority of the 1990s, which also included them taking home at least a share of the Big Eight title three times. Now, Colorado last claimed a conference title back in 2001 under then head coach Gary Barnett when they knocked off Texas in the Big 12 championship game. And then under Barnett, we did see the Buffaloes get back to the Big 12 championship game a couple of times. But since then, Colorado's program has really fallen on tough times, and they've only had one winning season since 2003. And regardless of whether or not it's the Big 12 or the Pac 12, the Buffs, unfortunately, they just have failed to keep up. Now, Colorado has had nine different head coaches since 2005, and that is a position at the head of any collegiate program that you definitely need stability. Colorado just has not had it. Um, you also look at the fact that the Buffaloes are 0-4 this season under head coach Carl Durrell. And to me, Colorado could be on the fast track to another head coaching change because you look at Durrell, he's in his third year. They went 4-2 back in 2020, 4-8 last year. And if you look at last year's season, Colorado had six games where they lost by at least 20 points. And honestly, they're on that track to do it again. They got blown out by 25 points in their season opener at home against TCU, who was breaking in a new head coach in Sonny Dykes. They then turned around and got blown out on the road by Air Force by 31. Then at Minnesota, they lost 49-7. And then this past Saturday at home, they were run off of their own field by UCLA by the score of 45-17. Now, at the end of the day, when you think about the glory days of Colorado football, they had an identity. They could run the football down anybody's throat. That option in those days, of course, with the likes of Darian Hagan. You think about Eric Bieniemy coming through there, Cordell Stewart, so many guys coming out of that backfield that had impacts. And Colorado, unfortunately, doesn't have that. And of course, I'm rattling off names. How could I forget about the late great Rashawn Salam, the former Heisman Trophy winner? But at the end of the day, Colorado doesn't have an identity now. They had one under McCartney, they had one under Neuheisel, and even for a brief period under Gary Barnett. They were consistently sending guys to the NFL, and it wasn't just like sending guys to the NFL. You had early round picks, and that's not the case right now for this program. There's talent in the Denver area on the high school football scene. There's also talent in the Rocky Mountain region overall. But the bottom line is Colorado has to find a way to funnel those guys into the program and get them to take their respective games to the next level. Colorado right now, they just need somebody to find. They got to find somebody who's going to give them identity as well as stability and respectability. Because if you look at Colorado right now, they're not even competing. And this is a far cry from what this once proud program was. They would compete. And honestly, there was a time when you would see Colorado, and when you saw Ralphie come out and take the field, you knew that you were in for a 60-minute battle. That's no longer the case, and I know that Folsom Field, has about 50,000 fans there, give or take, but nonetheless, that place would be very raucous, and that place would be very telling on opposing teams. You think about some of those battles in the 90s in the Big Eight between Colorado and Nebraska. Then, of course, it moved over to the Big 12 conference as well. that's no longer the case. I mean, with the exception of the uprising, if you will, by Colorado in 2016 when they got to the Pac 12 championship game for the first and only time in school history. After that, it's been a steady decline downhill. And I don't see where the Buffaloes can find a way to get it turned around, at least here in 2022. You're already 0-4. You're not competing. You're at Arizona on this coming Saturday, and then you got a bye week before you host Cal. And Arizona is looking like an improved team. Cal is looking like a team that could make a bowl game this year. And we haven't even talked about Colorado going to Oregon State, hosting Oregon, traveling to SC, going to Washington, and then finishing up at home against Utah. Things are not looking good for this program, and I'm sure that the people that follow this program, they want to see things turned around. So the bottom line is, can or will Colorado get back? We got to wait and see. I mean, you know, on the outside, it looks like, the Pac 12 is going to get themselves together following the departure of USC, or the imminent departure of USC and UCLA. Are they still going to be a conference? That's one big thing. I don't know what's going to happen there, but regardless of where Colorado ends up, if they stay in the Pac 12 or they go to another conference, they got to find a way to compete, and they got to figure out what they're doing. And right now, that simply has just not happened for this football program. So I think the bottom line is they've got to get some footing under them. They've got to get some stability, and they've got to get a coach who's going to get this thing turned around. You already see there are some big time openings on the college football scene already. And I say big time not by schools that are like really competing recently, but it's just not working out. Obviously, Nebraska is going to be looking for a coach. Georgia Tech is looking for a coach. Arizona State is looking for a coach. And BT, how you doing, man? You know, CU is done for. And this ain't even rock bottom. You know what? I agree with you. I mean, it's a situation where they got to get things turned around. And you already got some coaches out there, like I said, some programs rather that are looking for coaches. Uh, Colorado could be on that list as well. I talked about Georgia Tech, Nebraska, um, Arizona State as well. Honestly, I think Auburn could be in that mix as well. I really think that if Auburn, just jumping off a little bit, but if Auburn loses that game at home to LSU badly, this Saturday night, Brian Harson, I think his hot seat is heating up even more. It was hot coming into the season. It got hotter after, Auburn got embarrassed by Penn State at home. And now, how you bring Colorado into this mix is now Colorado's going to have to compete with those other programs from Power Five conferences as far as going out there and being able to get a head coach for the 2023 season. 2022 is a wash for the Buffs, and we said that a lot in recent years, unfortunately. But nonetheless, this program, to quote you, BT, it has hit rock bottom. Let's see if they can turn things around. But nonetheless, this right now, from what we're seeing on the gridiron from Colorado, is a far cry from what this once proud program was known for. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites on social media. Thank you so much, BT, for dropping in, dropping some comments, and showing some love. As always, it is much appreciated. And to all of you fine folks out there, this is William Martin signing off. And thanks again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube.